Welcome to another episode of Straighten Your Crown, where we're bringing you some amazing women who are role models, who are influencers and impactful in the community. When I tell you, I love that topic of celebrity, non-celebrity, somebody that everybody should know, but maybe they don't know, everybody doesn't know yet, but they will, because I love people who are willing to be bold about themselves and carry themselves out loud and spectacularly broad with their success. That's why it's super bad all day long. And so this guest, Deya Smith Taylor, is definitely in and beyond that category. I'm so excited to introduce you to yet another one of my girlfriends. You know how you have a girlfriend right away and then she becomes a closer girlfriend. We've known each other for years. Sorta. But now we're going to know each other deeper, and you're going to know her too. Here she comes. I am so excited. Deya, I am so excited and privileged. But before you say anything, I got to tell them, Chief Wellness Officer. Think of something that I'm super proud of when women are willing to go deep with you as a life coach, a keynote speaker, a podcaster. And let me say this to you. Her books will change your perspective. And anything that changes your perspective and changes your energy changes your life. And so what I've heard about her and what she's done and how she's piercing she has been, I'm so excited to have this time with her for you. Deya, I'm so excited. Welcome to Straighten Your Crown, as you help us help a lot of other people get on the track. And you're an expert at it. Like, you're an expert. And yeah, exactly. I'm so excited. I first asked my guests to please do me a huge favor. Go very, very deep and brag about yourself. Tell us your accomplishments and what you're most proud of.
Well, first of all, I'm proud to be on your show, Gloria, and I love your energy. It is awesome. And, my fellow Bison sister, so it's already all good, right? So speaking of, so I went to Howard University, and while I was there, I won Miss Black Connecticut. Yeah, Black people do live in Connecticut. I know, shocker. And then I went on to win Miss Black USA. And so I was able to travel.
We don't want to gloss over that at all. We can't gloss over that at all. There's very few people that get to meet them, see them, talk to them, touch them. Just give us a few more minutes of the inside sites that a lot of people don't know. Miss Black USA is huge.
Yeah, it was a huge deal for me. It really opened me up to what the possibilities were, and it really put me on the path to knowing that not only did I want to be a speaker and reach women, but I wanted to motivate millions of women across the world like me who wanted more for themselves, right? Maybe you didn't come from the best circumstances or you weren't exposed to so much as much. But when you are exposed, when you do get opportunities to travel as I did, you realize that the world is so much bigger than you could have imagined. And so I really committed my life, and my path has been about, whether it's highs or lows, really helping other women to make their pain pay them back, right? If it happened to you, it cost you something, then you need to leverage it. You need to get some dividends off of all of your experiences, and it all counts. And so for me, whether that's working in the United States Senate, working, as the executive producer for the Tom Jordan Morning Show, as the national producer for the American Heart Association, and also building my own business, having 4 books out, which I'm sure we'll talk about. All of those things, I believe in using everything that you are, everything that you've experienced, and leveraging it. And so no mistakes, no failures, unless you don't learn from them.
Right.
unless you don't use them. And so, we'll talk in more detail, but that's just a high level in terms of what I've been able to do as a coach, as a speaker, as an author. But I use it all. I don't just tell the highs. I also
Yes.
tell the lows
Yes.
because people don't do that. And so when
Right.
we're living in an Instagram world and you're
Right.
seeing all the highlights, it can be very discouraging
Right.
because you're like, that's not my life. And how is that even possible? Well, it's because people aren't telling you the whole story. They're only showing you their curated life. And my goal is to be as authentic as possible so that everybody can know what is possible.
This is very big when you talk about being authentic as possible. You talk about the Instagram stories. I just came back from a long trip, and you show the highlights, your highlights from the long trip. I did not talk about the fact that I had to go to urgent care when I came home. I didn't talk about the things that are always low. And I do talk a lot about it, but you still need to highlight the fact that everybody doesn't tell you everything. However, you make your decisions, your choices, your overwhelming feelings, your emotional management side roads based on you believing you've seen it all, heard it all, know it all by the little bit that they show you. So I absolutely love that. Talk about a little bit when you said about the exposure. I am so big on that word, exposure. And I know
Yeah,
that it
I say
started.
the best thing that you can give, the best gift you can give anyone,
Yeah.
and the best teacher is travel. To see something outside of yourself. When
Yes.
I went to, and not just when I say travel, it doesn't even have to just be international. I'll
Right.
I'll do very basic. Like for instance, my mother sent me to overnight camp, right? Like
Right.
she couldn't afford it, but she wanted me to have something and to see the world, to see grass, right?
Right.
Because I was an inner city kid, and to see that you can go horseback riding and swimming, and
Right.
these are things that I thought were corny, but
Yeah.
once you get exposed to it and other people who appreciate it, you grow appreciation for things that you might not normally do. So I
Right.
think it's easy a lot to shun things that you just don't know about.
Yes.
You travel, you get exposed to different cultures, you learn about different foods, you learn what the possibilities are. Even as Americans, you
Yeah.
realize that we're force fed a lot of information and one
Girl,
perspective,
talk
and you
about
realize
that
there's a
right
different
there.
way to live life. And so
Yes.
just looking at the news, like when I went to Africa for the first time, which I'm sure you can appreciate,
Yeah.
their perspective on the world in news is totally different than ours.
Totally different.
And that's always stayed with me. Like there is more ways to skin a cat, right? Or to see life. And I think if we apply that on a global level, but also in our relationships with one another or at
Yeah.
work or in our business, and be open to different ways of seeing things and not just your own opinion, you
Yeah.
grow as a result if you're open to it.
This is what I loved about what you said. That travel will bring you a lot of different things, and it doesn't have to be far travel. It can be in your background, in your backyard. And you said something that was really important: is that you will shun away from or close down the possibilities of things that you don't even understand. And then the awareness that when you go someplace else, that they see the same thing you see, totally different, totally different.
Totally.
As you've climbed the ladder and you've moved around to the place where you're starting your own entrepreneur business, can you talk a little bit about the support team? Because I think when I've heard you talk as an executive producer, you obviously were powerful on a team as you built a team. That's a very interesting place to be. Can you talk a little bit about that to serve some of these women who really want to have a quantum leap and they have to have a team that's better than the one that they have right now?
Absolutely. And I'm not even saying that I have it all figured out, right? But
Yeah.
what I'll say is the beauty of having a job is you have clear, positions, right? And people are doing what they do, and you don't even realize how much you need it until you get out on your own. And the whole idea of being a lone ranger is not it. It's not healthy. It's not good for your well-being. And even
Right.
if you know how to do it, it doesn't mean that you should. So I think
Correct.
that's one of the biggest, hardest lessons for business women or entrepreneurs is thinking that you can do it all because you know how to do it. But the
Right.
real question becomes, what's the best use of your time and energy, right?
Right.
What are the things that you absolutely need to do or that you do the best? And the things
Mhm.
that you don't have to do or that aren't a good use of your time to grow your business, you hire them out. For me, that means I have a lot of independent contractors, right?
Mhm.
So I don't have people who work for me 24/7, but
Yeah.
as I'm doing events, as I'm building on projects, I hire out, whether that's individuals who are assistants, whether that's social media, whether that's Fiverr, right? There are all kinds
Right.
of gig
Right.
opportunities where
Right.
you can just hire people on a case by case basis and create a budget for it so that
Mhm.
that always becomes a part of what needs to get done. Like, you, just because you know how to do graphics, if that's going to take you 4 hours to do, or you're trying to
Right.
teach yourself, and you can be using that as time to have a meeting or a conversation or get new business, hire somebody else to do your graphics.
Exactly.
Just because you
Exactly.
can doesn't mean you should. That's what I want people to know.
One of the things that you guys are getting a chance to lean in on, can you even imagine her skills in coaching people? Can you even imagine having her as a life coach to help you go through the things that you need to go through? Because a person like Deya is understanding of where you're going to go and how you're going to get there and how to use your pain as something that will carry you forward. I will tell you this. When my sister was telling me about you years ago because of the power of your books and how it impacted you, it's so exciting to have you here on Straighten Your Crown because of that. Tell us a little bit about the journey of your books, because I believe that a book leads to another book that leads to another book that leads to something else. And that journey of embracing it also gave you such a platform to be such a strong keynote speaker. So talk a little bit about that.
I appreciate that, Gloria. Let me just be really honest with you. Here's a transparent moment.
Yeah.
You know, when you have highs, you also have lows, and it's all, sometimes it's unceremonious and you don't see it coming. A
Right.
year after I won Miss Black USA, traveling the world representing Black women, I also got married, and I
Yeah.
went down the aisle like immediately after I graduated from Howard. And then a
Mm.
year later after that, I found myself in a state of depression. But I didn't know it was depression at the time because we didn't have words, to describe what was
Right.
going on.
Right.
But ultimately, I did not choose myself in getting married. I wanted to please other people. By the time I realized that it probably wasn't the best choice for me, I went down the aisle with tears in my eyes because I didn't want to disappoint others. Why do I tell you that? Because not disappointing other people almost cost me my life. And
Right.
so one day I learned the hard way that if you think wrong for too long, you don't know what you would do. So here I am motivating millions, and I became a colored girl who considered suicide when the rainbow was enough and took pills. Okay, took
Mm.
pills. And I didn't want to feel the pain that I was feeling. And as an only child, I thought about my mom, and I put enough of the pills back to just make me sick, get my stomach pumped. Ultimately, what did I want? I didn't want to die. I wanted the pain to stop. And I actually was desperate enough because I wanted my husband to see that what we were going through, that I was in pain. Well, you know what? I got his attention. He saw it. And then his mother told him, well, if she tried to kill herself, she might try and kill you next. Makes no sense.
What?
Why do I tell you that? Because he left me the next day
Are
after
you kidding
I
me?
took my life. No, I wish I was. So I had to,
Mm.
so if I was down before, I really had
Right.
to pick my face up.
Right.
And that was the biggest lesson, the hardest lesson, the most gut wrenching experience. But it eventually led to my first book, which is called Touch Yourself 30 Ways to Boldly Live, Love, and Let Go. The whole point of that book was that you need to be so in touch with who you are
Yeah.
that you're teaching other people about you and not the other way around. What I
Hmm.
learned in that experience, because I was very young when I got married,
Yeah.
and because I didn't choose myself, I put the responsibility on him to make me happy, which no
Right.
other human being has the capacity to do. We're all trying to figure out and work out our own soul salvation, right? And
Yeah.
so only thing another person can do for you is enhance your happiness. And so I went from that book to which was, by the way, the kind of community that was built from that book of women just being able to be honest about losing control of their life,
Right.
and their own self-esteem, because I had to
Right.
address my own self-esteem. Because here's the thing, you can be successful outwardly.
Yes.
We know how to be performative, but it doesn't
Yes.
mean that inwardly the work is there. So a lot
Right.
of us are so busy, and we seem successful in terms of what we've accomplished, but
Right.
if people really knew the conversations that were going on inside our head, and the pain
Right.
that we're feeling, and the doubt that we have,
Mm.
that's a whole nother thing. And so that led to my second book, which is called Failure is Fuel,
Okay,
which is
wait.
again
Before
about,
we go into the second book,
sure.
before we get into the second book, I have to tell you this. First, I have to tell you, I got married a year after I graduated from Howard too. So I know that deal is a very serious. I know, girl. There's too many reasons why we need to be best girlfriends. Too many reasons. I can honestly tell you that the things that you're talking about resonates with so many women. And you guys, it doesn't have to do with your income level, your background, your economic situation. It doesn't. It has to do with a whole lot of circumstances. But the most important thing is that we're talking about it. And she's going to bring you some more books. So we just got to take this one quick break, and we'll be right back to you. Right back to you.
Our confidence is everything.
My name is Gloria Mayfield Banks. I cannot wait to go into that room, lift the energy, and meet my new friends. Give them some hardcore direction as we grow in this life together. We are in the image business. We are making a statement. When I walk in that house, they have to know I'm tremendously successful and you want me on your team. Don't ask me about my prices yet, because they too will blow you away. Most women underprice themselves, period. But it's how you walk in there first that will make pricing not the number one priority. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for participating. I want to thank you for leaning in, grabbing my energy, giving your energy, and let's take it up together. Dear, when I tell you your confidence is off the chain, and I absolutely love it because I can tell it was definitely built. Definitely built. When I tell you the women in the super bad community can lean into a person like yourself because you're so willing to tell your whole truth. I can only imagine the darkness that you had faced to do something of that caliber, then to wake up and to remember the love of your mother, even deeper than the love for yourself. You know, I always tell people that when you're in a relationship, it's hard because we don't talk about this, but it's so important to think about what you don't want, to be as equally as important as what you do want, because it will just really take you down the ledge. I know that feeling of going down the aisle when you know that you shouldn't go down the aisle, but I also know that feeling of doing a lot of other things when you shouldn't do those other things. And as a life coach, I know you hear those. So go ahead. You're getting ready to tell us about your next book as you go through this journey.
Well, I just need to, say absolutely to what you just said, because here's
Yes.
the thing. A lot of us are making decisions based upon what we've been told is successful, and we're trying to check the box. And
Yes.
it really has nothing to do with what makes you most happy and what brings you the most joy. And
Right.
so as we're thinking about becoming those super bad women, and making, multiple having multiple streams of income and making all
Yeah.
this money, make sure that it's what makes your baby leap inside, makes your soul happy, because there you will suffer. You will suffer
Yes.
if you're not clear on your
And you
why,
won't win.
because
You
the
won't
road to
win.
success is not always easy.
Right. Right.
Amen. So
Yeah.
yeah, and so with that acknowledgement of, the ups and downs of the journey, I wanted to, I did a mini book called Failure is Fuel, which really speaks
Wow.
to, how we look at failure, because a lot of us judge ourselves or others based upon the season that we met them in, right? Because we go through seasons. So how you meet people is not their whole story.
Right.
And you need to be aware of that, even for yourself. And
Right.
so I really give a lot of tips and tools and tell the story of, in more detail of what I told you,
Okay.
and really help people, have a new acronym for what failure is and what fuel is, and how to leverage it, right? How to make
Okay.
it work
Yeah.
for you. And then the book after that is called Soft is the New Power. Yeah. Oh, here it is right here. Embracing your feminine edge to win in love and life.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
This is my most popular book.
Okay.
On Amazon. I wrote this book in 2016, and all the girls went into their soft season and their soft summers and all that. And so till this day, it's my bestseller. In fact, I just did a Zoom with a group of women, a book club out of in Johannesburg, who were studying the book. Yeah.
Nice.
So this book it's soft power, by the way, and you all need to know this, it's a political and business strategy, right?
Okay.
So when you think about hard power, that's war, right? Or that's somebody forcing you to do something. Soft power is your ability to understand what your opponent or the person you're negotiating with, what is it that they like? What is it that they need? And you attract them to you and what you want based upon that. So a good example of what soft power is social media. Social media is soft power. People follow you because they're attracted to what you're doing. And so you're able to influence them and become an influencer in their life and get what you want from them as well, because they're attracted to what you give. Now, the good news about that is we can use that both in business and in our personal lives. Right. And so the first part of the book, I really deal with reminding women that you don't have to win like a man when you can win like a woman. Even as a leader, there's something called feminine management. And what feminine management teaches things like, emotional intelligence, being interested in what's going on with other people, managing your own emotions and the emotions of others in real time, and using these soft skills that we have as women. We don't have to do it the way men do. We can be softer, we can be fly, we can use our personalities, right? All of who we are work.
This is why I just have to stop you here. This is why role models are so critical. This is why a woman like yourself gets asked so many times, how did you do it? Why did you do it? Because you don't have to do it like just what you see on the TV or just what you see in the corner across the street or just what you see in the aisle across you don't have to do it like anybody else, number one. And you definitely don't have to do it like a man in order to be powerful. So I just had to underline that because that's a big part of understanding your ability to be super bad is that you are already super bad inside yourself without the duplication of doing things that you don't even want to do.
That's it. And your lived experience as well as your expertise, that's your superpower, right? The way that you show up in the boardroom or in the office or on the Zoom or in the meeting, your lived experience, what you've experienced, what you've seen, that is your superpower, and we have to use it, right? And so versus trying to hide it and not be who we are or not talk, use our real voice to make other people comfortable. There's but they're tools, right? Like smiling as an example. A lot of us, why should I have to smile? You don't smile because you're trying to be fake. You smile because not only is it a tool that is inviting to other people, but it makes you feel better, right? There's science and neuroscience behind smiling. One scientist said it's as powerful as 2,000 candy bars. So there are things that we can do to be effective and to be more attractive in business because it works. So when you know the why,
it's also important to take on the responsibility for other people to feel comfortable in your space. Take on the responsibility for other people to enjoy being in your space. And if you take on the responsibility, you don't feel like they're responsible for what you're doing. You're responsible for that. You're taking control of that. You're making that a bigger part of what's going on. As a keynote speaker, as an author, as a podcaster, you're an expert at knowing that you can control the energy in the room by what you decide to deliver, not necessarily what other people decide to give you.
That's so good, Gloria. I mean, we could go on and on about that, but I know we won't, but we can. But that's what people could just get the book. But it deals with feminine energy. It deals with feminine energy and masculine energy and what that looks
Okay.
like. And guess what? We have both. And
Yeah.
so be strategic about when and why you're using it, right? Like know
Yeah.
your why.
Yes.
And then real quickly, the second part of the book teaches you how to be a man whisperer, but I won't get into that right now. But yeah, it gets deep, right? And it gets spiritual. So that's that
Right.
piece. And then
Okay.
finally, my most recent book is I have the book and also I have the journal, and it's
Okay.
called
A journal. Excellent.
You're Successful, but Are You Okay? But it's
That's so
also,
big.
there's a book and there's a journal, right? So there are two.
Okay.
You're
Yes.
successful, but are you okay?
Right.
So there are real self-care strategies to get you through the workday. So there are things that you can do every day to take care of yourself, starting with how do you wake up? What does that routine look like, right? Everybody
Yeah.
tells us we should multitask, but multitasking actually is not good for your brain. And so if you're going to
Hmm.
be an experts can only do one good thing at a time, right? You can't be great at everything at the same time. And
Right.
so when you're doing high level work and you want to give your best, multitasking is not it. And it actually makes you dumb. And there's science behind
Wow.
it because it stresses you out. I'll give you this quick analogy. Just think
Yes.
about on your computer right now. You have all these windows open on your computer. What happens when your
Hmm.
computer has a whole lot of things open? It slows
Slows down.
down. It stresses
Hmm.
out the computer. And so it functions, but just not as well as it could. We're the computers.
Right. Okay, let me just say this. The topic alone, the title, I'm sorry, the title alone with the workbook. You are successful, but are you okay? For the community of women who are leading up to Superbad all day long, one of the things I love the most is a person like Deya who comes to the table, who doesn't just come to the table, but turns around and brings someone else to the table. Because sometimes that's the only time you get to even recognize the fact that you're not okay or say it out loud is when you're in the room with someone who's going to represent you when you're not necessarily at your best, because no one's at their best 100% of the time. But to know that there's a way in which to find out, and that to be surrounded by other people who are successful but not always at their peak 100% of the time is really, really critical. And so I love the title of that book because we're faced with a lot of challenges with being our best all the time. And that's why this program of Straighten Your Crown is bringing role models like you ahead. Tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial venture right now. What is it that you're most excited about that you're able to give to other people right now?
Really, I would say it's the tools from this most recent book, Gloria, and I'll tell
Okay.
you why. Because the name of this book, I mean, the name of your show is called Straighten Your Crown, and
Yeah.
that's really what it does. Is it helps women to straighten their crown while they're in progress. So they're science-based, real self-care tools that you can use right now, whatever you got going on in your life, that you can
Yeah.
apply to help you get through the day, get through the moment, get through the meeting, before, during, and after work. And then, so for me, taking this book on the road as a speaker, talking to
Mm.
organizations, ERGs, women's conferences, to be able to have these kinds of authentic conversations, give women the impactful tools that they need to keep their crowns on and to be healthy and wealthy in the process. And when I'm
Yes.
saying healthy and wealthy, I mean internally, psychologically, emotionally, financially, and
Right.
spiritually.
Right, right. You guys, this is what I mean. When you find a person like Deya Smith Taylor and you share, it's not just what you gain, but what you get from her, what you learn from her, and what you share from her. So we definitely want to know where they find you, where they can connect with you, how they can stay connected with you, and how they can journey along with you. Because it's not just one statement, as you can hear. She was jam-packed in these few minutes. Can you even imagine if she had time to get to know you specifically and what she can deliver for you and for your group? Let's look here for where they can find you as well.
So on my website, you can see all my life coaching services, the books, the speaking opportunities, and so on and so forth, which is at diadirect.net. So
Yeah. So
I
that's
mean,
awesome. I loved the conversation. I love the boldness. You guys, when you look at her accolades, I want you to take a moment And don't just read them through like you read other people. Put yourself in that space. And I don't care if you are a multi-zillionaire or if you're new starting out. When you put yourself in someone's space just to feel their energy, to feel their vision, to feel their dreams, you then take them on and you build a bigger one for yourself. So I'm so excited that you're with us today at Straighten Your Crown. I'm so excited that possibly, as you venture out, more people will hear so much more about you and what you bring. And that Howard University background connection that we have will always be something. A former Miss Black USA who was out here changing the world. I thank you so much for being with us today. I was totally delighted. Thank you so much.
It's my honor.